Alas, dear Yorick.
So I thought I'd have a session today because yesterday I had a kinesiology session
Mhm.
in my Pracky Excellence class, and by the time I got to, so I've got hip pain. So I've
Right.
got, and it feels to me like pain on the end of the femur bone, so the major bone in the leg, from the knee to
Okay.
the hip, and it's on the right side, and it's been there for months, and it hasn't really been too bad, and and I sort of call it my mini muscles butt, so Teddy and I joke because I've got a sore butt.
Right.
And he just likes saying that. But anyway, so I go to mini muscles and I
That'll
sit on
fit.
the bench, and my right butt, it's exactly where the sit bones
Right.
hit the thing, and that hurts every week for months and months and months and months.
Mm.
For an hour, twice a week.
Right.
I've had this pain. Anyway, so I thought yesterday morning I would use in my Pracky Excellence class, I used Sharon to be a surrogate for me, and we did a bunch of stuff, and it wasn't as structural as I thought, which was pretty interesting. And so part of what ended up showing up was the HPA, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis was involved.
HPA axis.
HPA axis.
So
that was
HPA is involved with neurodiversity and
all hormone, any
all
hormones,
hormones.
any hormones.
It's the central axis for the neuroreceptor model
Yeah,
and
yeah.
hormone.
And actually, I don't know whether I checked for neurotransmitters and things, but a bunch of the things that I do that did muscle test up, like the stem enhance and the redox signaling molecules, they can allow better production
Right.
of neurotransmitters just by,
Right, okay.
yeah. So, and same with vitamin A and vitamin D.
REM sleep does that too.
Yeah, right. Well, sleep isn't very much fun at the moment because my hip.
Right.
So, well,
Right.
it's not my hip. I keep saying my hip. It's literally my, that sitting bone.
It's
Where
pain. It's pain, and it's generally pain.
Yeah.
And what intensity of pain? What would you grade out of 10?
Well, I try to avoid it because it can be like an 8 out of 10.
Can be an 8.
But only when I'm sitting. So I sit in the car. I have to wiggle a lot.
So it's actually triggered by a particular.
Yeah, it's seated by sitting. I sit on the bed to read, and that hurts.
So does it hurt when you lie down?
No, not so much.
Right.
But until the last 2 days.
Right.
So Saturday something shifted.
Okay. So Saturday something's shifted, and one of the real problems is when you relax, which is sitting down, and now when you're lying down, it's hurting.
Yes. So now there's a bit more of a throb. I've been running the bioresonance, and the bioresonance yesterday was showing the femur bone was acutely stressed, which makes sense. I actually thought it was something different, but the surrogate yesterday, it just wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be centering mechanisms and throwing my pelvis out, but none of that was out. So that was sort of interesting. So I'm going to see Sean, the chiropractor, as well, just to see what he can do, because it did say this morning in my bioresonance, I've got poor spinal fluid going up and down the spine, but I'm also not able to move as easily as I normally do.
Right.
And that's protecting my...
That's good, becoming rigid from the lack of movement.
Exactly, which I don't want either. So I did a couple of Ks walk this morning, but I walked like an 85-year-old. So, and that's more protection, actually, if I be honest. It's not because I'm in pain, it's more protection. Because I am now worried that, like, what if I have pulled something off the bone or something? Anyway, right. I know that's all structural stuff, but the point is, when I got to the end of my Pracky Excellence training yesterday, Nicola said, well, what's the cause though? What's the underlying cause? So I've got a chart that's got all sorts of emotional, spiritual, nutritional, and both her and I sort of said, well, maybe it's nutritional cause, or because structural didn't show up very much, but it ended up being reactivity. And the reactivity was my emotional gear and my self-esteem.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I'm here. So because I've got
so there's something special today. We're doing a we're doing a counselling session online so that we can.
And if I get permission from my group, I might actually share the session, online as well, because it was a very small group, and
all right,
and it's me. It was my balance. So
yeah. So the first part's just getting info down, and then and now we're getting into it. So we'll just
but I think people don't know what it's like to go see a counsellor either. So I thought, well, this is interesting because, like, for me personally, especially when you're looking at self-esteem, I feel like I've got fairly good self-esteem. And
generally you do, because I know you are, and it's like something that you do have.
Yes.
And especially with your work, because you get such good outcomes, and
so
I see a lot of happy people.
Yeah, and because I'm not worried about money, I'm booked up. Another thing it might be, this is the quietest week I've had since the beginning of COVID, where people were ringing up and cancelling at the drop of a hat,
Right.
you know, isolating themselves for 14 days and staying in their rooms and not communicating with their family, and me on the other end going, oh my God, this is all such bullshit.
You've been booked at least a month ahead for a couple of years now.
Yeah, and like this week I've got, you know, I'm a half load.
Oh.
Which is really unusual. Like
You've been working with me. Something.
Yeah, you've been working with me 18 months, and it's never happened.
Mm.
You know, it
hasn't either.
You know, so that's sort of bizarre.
So considering you're in pain,
it's giving
as a win.
Exactly, and that's what Nicola said. You know, I do tend to just, you know,
go hard,
and you know, and I like that. You know, I like what I do, and yeah, like you say, I get good outcomes, and
it's such a nice community service.
Yes, yeah, so it's a really cool thing to do. Well, so from a self-esteem perspective, normally I feel pretty good, and even having a quiet week, you know, it was sort of like weird that I sort of saw it last week, and I went, oh. Because I did have a few last minute cancellations for a few different reasons. So it was more booked up. Like yesterday, there were 3 cancellations.
And you're still booked up a few weeks ahead.
Oh, yeah. No. That's not a worry. You know, that's sort of like I figure I might get a massage and see the chiro, and might actually manage to do a few self-care things this week that I wouldn't normally get to do.
So do you think that self-care has been put on the back burner while you've been very busy for a few years?
Well, I certainly okay, so I'm about to turn 56, and you know, Jay and I always joke that we'd have to do yoga or something like that when we turn 50. Right. And we've never done it.
Okay.
So, you know, we sort of, you know, just don't get around to it, because by the end of every day, I just...
Well, a lot of the things you've mentioned, the sources of the pain, yoga's proven to be actually good for all of those things.
Yeah.
And not only that, for emotional pain, yoga, they found, with even high level. So Bessel van der Kolk did a study about there was about 100 women with post-traumatic stress disorder that was untreatable. So they were treatment resistant. And they got some in a self-care program in a group that was social.
Yeah.
And the other group was just weekly trauma-informed yoga. And the people in the trauma-informed yoga group ended up doing better. And not only that, but better in the long term, because they were able to self-regulate when normally they might have had to go to hospital.
Right.
So the self-regulation part of yoga practice is incredible, even just the breathing.
Yeah.
But what it does for your joints is so it increases muscle mass, it improves muscle mass, improves circulation, because good yoga, you're going to shake every part of the body and move. And like you said, like you were saying about the pain, is that when you've got a situation that goes on for a long time, it's like things become stagnant and then calcify.
Yeah,
like, because my yoga teacher taught me that even with the stomach, if you don't move enough, things stay in the same place, and it's easy for things to... Like RSI is calcification from being in the same place.
Yeah, absolutely. And same, you know, and I always talk about toxins, you know, how long it's going to take for people to lose weight or shift energy, you know, depends on how hard packed it is. So everything can get harder and harder packed in the body, firstly in the fat mass, and then calcified fat mass, and then calcified ligaments and tendons and connective tissue. So when you go get a massage, so when you go get a massage and you feel that gluiness, you know, that real gristliness, that's gluey stuff inside the muscles that shouldn't be there.
Right. So you haven't ever done the yoga?
No, I did do yoga for a long time. I just haven't for you know, I used to have a yoga room at my clinic. So when I had yoga instructors, I used to do it.
Oh, okay. So when you were encouraged to do it.
Yes.
And how did you find
When it was easy. No, I love yoga. I hate Pilates.
Right.
Pilates hurts, you know. I've never done it, but then again, I've never done it with the reformers or anything like that. So I am now thinking, you know, every couple of years I get something really nasty in one of my joints. You know, about 10 years ago, I had frozen shoulder in my left shoulder, had it for 23 days.
Right.
After 11 days of not being able to get it under control, I toddled my butt across the road, and there was some big stuff going on in the clinic at the moment, because we were starting to think about shutting the clinic down.
Oh, so you think that was stress related?
Maybe. And but I was having everything, I had a whole bunch of practitioners, so I was alternating between, Reiki and massage and kinesiology, and I even tried acupuncture, which I freaking hate. Anyway, because I'm terrified of needles, as you know. So, but then one day, like 24 hours, like during COVID somewhere, that hurt from there to there. I couldn't move anything just for 24 hours.
It's funny how that happens, isn't it?
And I actually went and bought like a $50, wrist thing, which actually felt amazing, but the next day it was gone. And I took truckloads of supplements and stuff. But but then I also, obviously for about 3 years I had both shoulders, sore during COVID. I sort of had a few years where, and it wasn't until I started using the Renew 28, that really made a difference for my shoulders. So that's when I started sleeping through the night, when I realized how good that was externally.
Okay.
So, I'm used to pain, but I don't like it. But every so often something, when it hits really bad. So,
It often happens in middle age.
No!
No, but the injuries we have had as kids start to appear in the aging.
Well, yeah, but also things like redox molecules and stem enhance, we release less and less every year from the time we're about 15 or 20.
Right.
So we don't regenerate as well.
But, but everything's like that.
Everything's like that. That's why, topping them up with supplements is
like
a sensible
like
thing to do.
some of the positive mood things, like what's that one that when you breathe and nitric oxide, so your body produces less.
I mentioned something on nitric oxide this morning.
Oh, right. Is that what it was? I didn't get a chance. I was rushing around.
I had no idea what it was about, but it was Jack Cruz.
Right.
And it was light. So bacteria release light. So so he's all about light, all this light energy stuff. He's amazing. And he was talking about how some bacteria in the gut release light. How, there's those little bugs that live in like the Antarctic, and you're underwater at nighttime. There's beautiful coloured stuff.
Pick them up on the beach down the Gold Coast. No, they do. They've got luminescent.
Yeah, right. So, but they found that they basically, our bacteria release light. So that they make light in our intestines, but it doesn't happen when we don't see natural sunlight.
Otherwise, the nutrients can't see where they're going.
They need a spotlight. But yeah, so he's found that they don't do it when you don't get natural sunlight. So these people avoiding sunlight and covering up totally to go out in the sun because they're so terrified, their bacteria aren't as happy and healthy and well.
Right, that's interesting.
But they also are involved in nitric oxide production.
Okay. Yeah, so nitric oxide declines as you get older.
Yes.
And another thing that people do, they do things like, I don't want to say the brand, but what you wash your mouth out with.
Oh, yeah, destroys it. Yeah.
Yeah, that destroys, because the nitric oxide cycle, the eating one, it's like cut. So it actually happens during the night and it develops in your mouth. And you shouldn't put those, Listerines, the one they use, and you rinse it out. It destroys the nitric oxide. No,
it destroys the bacteria that create the nitric oxide.
Right, and it's like a 24-hour cycle. So
that's why anyone who can, getting out and seeing that first sunshine in the morning is really powerful, because that activates the production of nitric oxide, which is involved in flexibility of our capillaries. And so people worried about heart attacks these days with everything going on.
And things like nitric oxide has to do with sexual energy.
Yeah.
Like, because all of the stuff around here is like lattice and nitric oxide.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because the nitric oxide, you can also get it through breathing. So if you go...
I think arginine's a precursor to nitric oxide. There used to be a product called Arginex, which was both for sexual, had B12 and a few other things. Yeah, I haven't had it for years.
But humming produces it in the nose. So if you hold your breath out and then walk around, that's what they say, holding your nose and breathe it in.
Show people what to do.
Oh, so so one way to produce nitric oxide is and then you hold your nose and move around a bit. And when you suck it in, it gives you a nitric oxide burst.
What, does that stop it from leaving or something?
Yeah, it's something. The guy who the guy
it's like after having sex and putting your legs up.
Well, there's a breath expert who works with
to try to fall pregnant.
Oh, okay. I don't know how it works. Yeah, but the guy's called Andrew McEwen. He's an Irish guy and he's a breath expert, works with sports people, and particularly into nose breathing. And they've worked out that by doing that, the amount of extra nitric oxide compared to normal breathing is like 500 times as much. So it's actually quite an amount. And
Yes.
so people are using that more often these days. And not only that, but humming is like in yoga, it's om.
Yeah.
And you go, why do they do that? Because produces nitric oxide straight into your lungs, which is antiseptic.
Right.
And it helps turn on your immune system. Strangely. So they've been doing that forever in yoga, but
Right.
you can hum. And I think Peter Levine's one of the major theorists in somatic healing the body that Bessel van der Kolk's worked with to get. And he says, well, it's on, but you can go,
Yeah.
because, and he says, because that regulates the body.
Yeah.
And so
Almost
also,
more fun, it tickles your lips.
right. But whether you hum or humming does the same thing.
Yeah.
My yoga teacher, one of my yoga teachers made a book called Mastery of Stress, and he put it in as humming because people might have an ideological problem with the yoga.
Right.
But humming does the same thing.
Yes.
And it produces nitric oxide, and that's lucky.
You're right. You're okay.
But Andrew McEwen, an Irish guy, he
Yeah.
did the work on that.
Yeah. So, even when I used to have just sort of thinking about, before we started, we were talking about the ACE score
Right.
and whether or not that might be linked in, with my chronic issues that come up occasionally.
Well, what's interested in the ACE score, which is adverse childhood experience, and there's a test and there's 10 questions.
And I was a 4 out of 10.
Right, and they're adverse childhood experience. And they're kind of things like if your parents divorced, that's an ACE score. If somebody was violent.
Before the age of 18 or
before
16
the age of 18,
or
yeah.
before 18, yeah.
Or if someone's, or so there's neglect, there's physical abuse, there's sexual abuse, there's all types of abuse. And when you get 4 or over, there's a risk of either becoming someone who gets abused all the time because that victim thing's in your system, in your social system, or you can become an abuser. Because a lot of people are just normal, but there's more likely of intensity with the higher ACE scores.
Yeah.
And working where we do, we meet people with much higher ACE scores, and they're vulnerable to both sides.
Yeah.
And so got to be careful. And the other thing is, what we were talking about actually with this is that they found in those studies that people with higher childhood experiences, those things transform into physical diseases as they get older. So they found that kids with ACE scores, they'll have a much higher likelihood of getting lung disease or heart disease, and often 4 to 8 times as high likelihood or cancer, and all risks from childhood traumatic experiences. And it's just in the data.
So you can say it's in the
data.
genes, but you can actually look at the family systems and say, well, it might be genetic, or it might actually be part of that whole genetic makeup because as a kid, everyone went through the same experiences.
That's right. And
dealt with it in different ways.
Yeah. So you have things like symptoms, but someone with ADHD has the same symptoms as someone with childhood trauma.
Right. Yes.
Because in all cases, it damages the prefrontal cortex.
Yeah.
It integrates the rest of the brain.
Yeah. As do kids who go on hormones way too young and stuff like that. So the girls who get awful periods and end up on the pill and stuff, that really messes with the ability to,
Right, and
get down the track.
But even more than that, in the initial ACE studies, what they were doing, they were working in a big American private hospital, and they were treating more women than men, but women with weight issues. And it was either putting on weight or bulimia and anorexia. But when they started questioning them socially, a majority of them were sexually abused as kids. And it ended up in weight problems. And so that's when they started to make the link between childhood experience.
Yeah, and I had a couple of really dodgy experiences when I was young. It's still in primary school.
Right. But also you've probably done a lot of work on yourself, more than a lot of people.
Yeah.
Which is one of the most helpful things.
Yeah, and I often talk to people about what, and you might not find this true as a holistic counsellor, but one of the things that I talk about with what is really powerful to work on with kinesiology is the stuff that still has a charge.
Right.
So if someone got raped at 16 years old, for example, and they still get teary and stressful, then there's still a charge in there. That's going to be
really something different, because they call that because when you're going through that sort of work with people and you go into the memory, people are often really triggered.
Oh, so you remember a week ago I was out to lunch with a family thing, and a family person who I haven't spoken to in 20 years. There was a potential that she was coming, and instantly my heart started racing. I started, You know, I could feel the, you know, the breath and the heart rate and everything increase.
Mm.
And it took like a minute to find out that she wasn't coming, which
Right.
was a relief. But then about an hour later, I found out that someone else had tried to convince her to come.
Mhm.
And, you know, that's my safe space, you know, my hometown.
Right.
So it won't be my safe space if I find out that everyone's inviting her there all the time.
Mm.
The safe space will be gone.
Mm.
And then my brain goes, well, everyone cares more about her than me. You know, they
Well,
don't give
but
a
that
shit
might,
about
but that
me.
mightn't be true either. That might be a self
Projection.
projection.
Mm.
Yeah, maybe it's not like
So that happened a week ago.
Yeah, yeah. Natural triggering.
Yeah, on Saturday we were with some friends.
So you go into like a fight and flight.
Yeah.
Five. And it says there's fight,
Freeze, fawn.
fawn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is normal.
Yeah, which, yes. Well, it's still a trigger for me.
Yeah.
You know, so whatever that is, I've still got a charge about it. So,
Okay.
you know, and the nasty part of my brain goes, it won't be over until she's gone.
Right.
But even then, I don't think it'll be over because there's enough family members who are on her side.
Oh.
you
Well,
know.
what if we just sit for a moment and shut your eyes and just think about that experience?
Which experience?
What happened the other day when you were worried?
Okay.
And just go through being there in that space and worrying about that sort of stuff. And just try to be comfortable with that. It's okay. And breathe. And it's natural to have those reactions. And what are you feeling in your body? Are you feeling anything anywhere?
Yeah, heart's pumping.
Heart's pumping? Did you feel an increase in heart rate just from thinking of that?
Oh, I wasn't paying attention to my heart until we started breathing.
It's interesting, isn't it? Just breathe energy into the heart area and see if anything else comes up. You feel any stress in any part?
Well, I don't know whether it's just because we're paying attention to it now, but now I can feel my right sit bones more.
Your hip bone more?
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Just breathe in there, breathe positive energy in and the negative energy out of that space. But those stress spaces, breathe into them. And just be okay with it. You're here now and it's okay. Everything's okay. Often those triggers, the part of the memory where the future, present and past, they kind of fuse together a bit.
Sure do.
But the other day it wasn't happening what happened in the past and it didn't happen at all as it turned out.
Yeah.
And so everything was okay. And those feelings are okay. What else do you feel in your body? Anything coming up?
No.
Good. Now let's go back to the memories. Let's say them that were the original ones that triggered that. Now let's just sit with those, and I'm here with you, do you know what I mean? And it's like, it's okay. Do you know what I mean? It's a long time ago. You're not the same person anymore, and none of the people who are there, because you're all older, everyone's changed and they're all different people. You've matured, everyone's matured. And from now, can you look at that? Can you go back to those memories and feel comfortable in the present? Remember to breathe. Be okay with those feelings. Let them exist. Don't run from them. Breathe into them. Let yourself relax.
Yeah, hard to do that with my butt.
It is, isn't it? Oh, sorry
Very,
about that.
yeah.
And just sit with the pain and be okay with the pain too then. I know. Not denying it, just breathing. And they come out of that now. We've got a little internal reflective journey.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to drive past her place every day, twice a day for 12 years.
Right.
When I worked down locally.
Isn't it funny how that whole location thing, the personal thing, I had a job once where I got pretty intimidated when I left because I was bothered about something and I brought it up. But I'd ride my bike past that place every few days.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
right.
And that fear comes up, right? It's a natural
Yeah.
thing that's like you
'Cause
just
it's
don't even
not
want
gone.
to deal with it.
Yeah.
Some people have neighbours like that.
Yeah, right.
They're
Yeah.
there every day and they're
Yeah.
hiding from them and and so it's
Anyway, I think that's like just thinking about the biggest triggers that are potentially messing with it at the moment. Because, like I said, it was pretty much only when I sat down for a few months. And then somewhere on Saturday, it just became,
really
might have been
painful.
Sunday. I don't even know when it got bad. But it was just like, we went for a walk one afternoon. Maybe that was Sunday afternoon. And Jay said, well, how's your butt? And I said, I walk every single day. I said, it must, it's fine because we only got just up around the corner. And I said, yeah, this is different. I need to go home. It's just in case I've torn something or something, I don't want to cause more damage. Yeah.
And, no one wants that to get bad.
Yeah, yes.
If you treat people with hip problems.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so it's, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it was so bad on Saturday. But also on Saturday, there was sort of a couple of funny things that happened, and I had to stand up for myself with someone.
Oh, okay. Social thing.
Yeah.
You feel that those things are related?
Well, I wouldn't have thought so, but who knows? It's like when, you know how there's such different media out there, and it depends where people are spending their energy, where they're hearing, one side of a story, and obviously we're all politically charged here in Australia with our elections coming up and obviously the whole world thing, which is connected to everything. So
politically things are intense at the moment. Doesn't matter which part of the news you look at.
And I had like 3 people on Saturday who made comments, maybe 4 people on Saturday who heard comments, and I just thought, well, that's just only one perspective, and they couldn't even see another perspective, and it was really quite nasty. And not at me, but just in general. And I was like, okay, so you're only watching, and I knew where they were listening because they claim anyway.
Well, the news is polarized.
Yeah.
And because the news is polarized, people are getting polarized narratives. And so it's very hard to be in either situation because you're going to butt heads with someone because the opinions of things are so different.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, politically, it's pretty high pressure what's happening in the world, not only one place, but in quite a few places. And the media draws people apart.
Yeah. And I think, like part of what I've enjoyed about Elon doing his thing is watching the corruption be shown. And here in Australia, like Jared Rannick does a similar thing, and Malcolm Roberts does a similar thing, and I love listening to them.
Know the people, right?
Yeah, right. So they're just politicians who I believe are, good politicians who really are after the best of Australians rather than being, connected to all the globalist.
They're interested in the same type of reform.
Yeah, they're interested in really, sort of like, the huge amount of taxes we pay on stuff that, like, are doing Aussies no good. Stuff that's getting rid of our freedoms and our sovereignty as opposed to things that are just making Australia a nicer place to live.
Well,
and
Australia is already a nice place to live.
Well, not so much these days. It's getting, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on politically.
I guess so, but when you look at it, people are migrating to the countries like Australia.
2.5 million in the last 3 years. So that's 10% of our population has been shifted.
I know, but people want to come here because same as the US, people want to go there. Because if you look at migration rates, some countries nobody's migrating to. So you go, well, what a
But I want to go
vacant
live
life.
in Afghanistan.
Yeah. Well, that's right. Off you go.
Yeah.
No, but the thing is that you know, even though like something about I suppose I don't know the way I think about this that I always think about here is that it's so good that everyone wants to come here.
Mm.
And so I just go, this is good.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah,
and if you compare it is good.
yeah,
And same with places like the US, people are migrating there all the time because it's good,
yeah,
not because it's bad. And even though we've got some problems maybe, it's still better.
yeah,
It's still freer. Like it's still freer, even though you know our privacy is being eroded because of the
yeah,
internet and this and that. It's still better.
yeah.
Like people migrate here. Some people from here migrate, but they'll migrate usually to someone like Europe or the US.
Or Thailand for a cheaper lifestyle.
Well, that's like a sea change.
Mm,
That's a different thing.
yeah. Anyway, so that was, because I'm trying to remember when the pain got bad.
Mm.
And that was sort of interesting hearing just a few things that I was like, yeah, right. There's just a whole different perspective out there that,
Well,
um,
stress is going to cause physical problems.
mm,
Otherwise, stress wouldn't be the one of the main problems with heart problems,
mm,
with high blood sugar, with cancer.
yeah,
So stress increases all of those things,
yeah,
right? So and so it's only natural that we get stressed and then pain comes
yeah,
because it increases inflammation. Because why is stress one of the main precursors for heart attack, for instance?
yes,
Like why? Like so they say chronic stress, and even if you've got a good diet, it'll still make you have a heart attack. Even
yeah.
if you've got a good lifestyle, because stress has that thing.
But you know that the heart does have brain neuroreceptors.
Yeah. So
So
yeah,
a
and
huge
because of
amount.
the vagal nerves
Yeah,
going through it. But the point I'm trying to make is that stress does have that physical effect, even on that level.
mm,
So we're stressed and joint pain might flare up
yeah,
because we're stressed and we might have a heart attack. We're
yeah.
stressed and it increases blood sugar. So getting the stress factor down really
That's the thing, I don't feel stressed.
no, you
So
don't
I'm
feel
I'm trying to find what this trigger could be, but I
no, but
don't
yeah,
feel stressed about it.
no, but oh, okay, yeah, sure.
I mean, I did with the whole restaurant thing a week ago, but even just hearing these people say nasty things on the weekend, um, it's more that awareness going, yeah, right. You think that. It's more like this realization.
Right.
It's a realization of polarization, which I know what people think.
Mm.
So it's not a surprise. And I just throw out some stuff in fun just because I think there's some fun stuff going on the planet as well.
Mm.
So like I said, I love seeing, like Jared Rennick, for example, he's been hitting the Australian government up for years to go and audit our gold in England. So our gold is in England somewhere or the UK or whatever. So in the same way Trump and Elon are going to go audit the gold in Fort Knox, Jared Rennick's going, yeah, we need to audit our gold. Let's go and see where it is. Has it been stolen? What's
Right.
going on? So he's been saying, because he's an accountant, so he's been saying for years and years, there's no way the gold's there. Why would it be there when it's governed by globalists?
Well, I don't. Okay. Sorry, I
Anyway,
understand that debate a little bit, but
I just find that fun. Like to me,
right.
that's a
Oh, so
fun
that's
thing.
fun.
Yeah, to me, that's fun
Okay.
because to me, it's like
That's funny,
calling.
isn't it?
Yeah,
So,
to me, it's like calling the politicians on their BS. And
right.
the politicians, you can't trust anything out of their mouths. And I love it when someone just says, "Yeah, stop that. You're lying." I love
Right.
that.
Well, that's the funny thing about that being fun. Like, it's funny what people find fun. Like, with counselling, I've got a supervisor, and she was a loss and grief specialist,
Yeah.
and she does family court work. But she was saying how she was studying counselling, 25 years ago, and she goes, "Oh, loss and grief." I thought I might do my master's. She thought that'll be fun, and then she went to the first class, and they're doing, what do you call it, where you're doing your own issues, sort of thing, and it's like, and the teacher went and said, "Oh, what's the first time you felt your life was threatened?" And she goes back to this story, or you weren't cared for, or something. And goes back to this childhood story about, you're in the pool, you think you're drowned, you go up to your mum, and they're like, "Oh, you're okay, go play."
Yeah, right.
But the thing about is that in polarization, people are mad. Do you know what I mean? But mad and sad are really similar.
Yeah.
Like, and in the polarization, people are mad and people are getting that intensity, right? And, you know, that opposition. But really underneath, people are sad because in most cases of anger, there's sadness behind it and probably loss. And so, because what are people, so in the polarized world that you're kind of a bit involved in, what is lost? Like, is there a loss there? Like, there's a lamenting for something, some sort of sadness. Because when I go to these things, I don't get too overexcited about it, even though I'm feeling it. And I always think it's really sad, you know. And it was like, because some things in my life, when I always used to get sad.
Yeah.
But when life, you know, you get kids and you start to get mad instead, and you're like, how did I actually switch to this, right? And it's because you're in a more of an intense, you know, you're doing something fun maybe, but there's like, even when you, and anyway, so the thing is, oh, this isn't fun, but then it becomes vocational.
Yeah, right.
Right, and then it's like, you know, you're helping people's lives because you're involved in this thing.
And of course, the only reason I got political is because of the health stuff.
Which had to do with,
you know, which in
the,
2020, you know, I was posting things on, you know, Facebook and being censored all the time, and on YouTube and being censored all the time because I was saying vitamin D is good for your immune system. Here's some stuff you can do for your immune system. Don't be frightened of viruses. This is what's good for the immune system.
And the previous year, naturopaths was struck off the Allied Health.
Yeah. Although, you know, I missed that memo. So so when ScoMo was on the news and he said all allied health can continue working safely. So I just took that at its word and I just kept working.
Yeah.
And then like 6 months later, someone said, you know, we're not on the allied health thing anymore. I was like, really? Went and had a look.
Which is so bizarre.
Yeah, so after 30 years or 25 years or whatever.
I talked to some doctors about that. They thought that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because it's like there's a different way of working, and well, some people have side effects. Yeah. Some people can't tolerate medicine. Some people, there's a whole bunch of reasons where you need a differential style of care.
Yeah.
Because people might have allergies to medicine, and you need, and the whole of natural therapies offers an alternative way of doing things, often when medicine reaches its limit.
Yeah.
And also the other thing.
The other thing is I had two cousins diagnosed with breast cancer last week.
Oh.
So again, you know, knowing
genetic.
Yeah. One on mum's side, one on dad's side, and both of them have had quite a lot of vaccines. So we know that there's ramped up, you know, things in there. So maybe, but even then, you know, my brain's sort of like, well, of course that's going to happen.
Well, something ironic about the naturopaths got struck off the adult just as metabolic health becomes popular in medicine.
And just as all these doctors are speaking about the stuff that we've been talking about for 30 years. So, you know, I have people come in and they're on this whole, say, Peter McCullough protocol, and they don't want any of my stuff, which is fine because they're on all these things. And I think it would be so much cheaper if you take one frickin' supplement.
Right.
You know,
so because individual.
Yeah, because that's what people are being taught, to go out and have 1,000 units of this and 500 milligrams of that, and you know, whatever. Anyway, doctors are encroaching.
Well, at least they understand metabolic health, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because counsellors understanding it's a good thing too, because we want to get our serotonin up, we want to get our positive hormones up, and so metabolic health probably will become a standard thing, hopefully.
Yeah.
Because it looks like it's going that way. People are, because if the doctors are getting involved, so is there some sort of rejection sensitivity with that? That polar being rejected by the medical.
With the
Because you're busier.
Oh no, I've always been busy. No, I've been busy forever. So that's, you know, and if anything, I am doing, because I'm teaching so much, I've cut down the number of clients I see these days. And I just don't need to do that number of hours that I used to, you know, when I was paying 500 grand a year for a clinic.
Yeah.
You know, wages and.
So simplifying's been good.
Simplifying's definitely been good. Yeah, it's nice to actually have an income.
You'll be retired soon.
Yeah, hilarious.
Real tired.
But I don't know. No. The doctor thing, I'm really loving, you know, seeing, and this sort of surprised me because you know, because I've been going to naturopathic congresses forever where you get these high level, you know, doctors and researchers from around the world who tell you about studies. And they not only tell you about the studies they're doing and all the intricacies of them, but they also pull apart other studies. So I'll tell you an example. I had a lady once who, so this is about high fat diets.
Okay.
So there was a lady there who she was the daughter of the people who wrote the course that I did my naturopathy through. That was Simon Schott, you know, with anyway, going back a million years ago. So 30 to 35 years ago, I did that training. And she had this whole presentation where basically it was like fat is bad for us and fat is causing all this inflammation, blah, blah, blah. So, and I'm listening thinking that just doesn't fit with any of my knowledge about fat, because even saturated fat doesn't do what they've been saying it's done for 30 years. Like, all fat has a benefit in our body if it's good, healthy, normal, natural fat in foods. So anyway, so I lined up with her in the lineup, and I asked her about what type of fat they had used. Turns out they'd used cheap, nasty foods. Right. So I said to her, so there, you know, there's no, so you weren't using like avocados and butters and eggs and margarine, things like that. They would know heaps of vegetable oils and margarine and stuff. Yeah. But also they would say that donut was a high fat food. And you go, well, yeah, technically it is, but it's also got sugar. It's also got wheat. It's also got, yeah. So
90% carbohydrate.
So it was really interesting when I chatted to her, I lost total respect for her. This was a study done by the CSIRO, actually, you know, because the UN's been pushing a low-fat diet for 40 years, and the UN has no interest in our health, neither does the World Health Organization.
It's funny because in with heart health, the European attitude is less fat conscious.
Yeah.
Because I read about it, and they're like, they don't encourage this zero LDL cholesterol thing.
Yeah, and actually Jack Kruse talked about a study. It might not have been Jack Kruse, but I think it was him. He talked about a study.
American.
Yeah, he's a brain surgeon,
right.
But he's like amazing. He's that guy who I sent the 4.5-hour video to you when you know,
so many
got a day up.
So many amazing.
He's incredible, and he sort of has had just such an interesting life because of the people who he, as a doctor, who he interned with, and which universities he went to. So therefore he heard stories in those universities about, say, the polio vaccine that other doctors wouldn't know about because they didn't go to that university where certain studies were done. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. But one of the things he said was that they looked at people who on their deathbed and they did bloods just before people died. The people who died the oldest had the highest level of LDL cholesterol.
Right.
So LDL cholesterol is protective. So the fact that we've been taught that it's like bad cholesterol is rubbish. It's just total rubbish, which is pretty interesting, you know.
But they do that on, in Australia, the heart care is like better than a lot of other places, and they use that method. They've got really...
What method?
Well, out of whatever they do, they've got like, we've got better rates than everywhere else.
Really?
Whatever happens...
Interesting.
Yeah, I know. I went through it. Whatever happened in Australia is actually really...
There's this test you can do that you can probably do around the world, but it's called an omega-3 index test.
Oh,
no, I've had it for a couple of years. It's probably out of date now.
Oh.
But it basically tests the percentage of omega-3s on the cell membranes.
Right.
And they know that all-cause mortality is based on the amount of omega-3s on your cell membranes.
Right, so omega-3s come from fish oils but also nuts.
Yeah.
Like especially walnuts, but all nuts and seeds are full of good omegas.
Yeah.
And
if you can metabolize them.
If people can eat it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but you know, there's a lot of options because some people have allergies to particular nuts and not others.
Yes.
But still, those fats in there are really good.
Yes, in their natural form, not in the oil form.
Yeah, but that's right, and in their natural form. But what I do is I just mix them up, and for lunch I'll have doesn't matter what seeds, and I can eat everything. I don't have any allergies, so I
Yeah.
just mix it up and change them all the time.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is people don't realise that different foods have different
Yeah,
nutritional elements.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
by having, and a lot of what a lot of people do is they end up in a habit over life.
Yeah.
They're kind of buying the same food every week.
Yeah.
So they're stuck on the same nutrition.
But what this study, they did this study on the omega-3s, and funnily enough, the first supplement, so when I tested my supplements yesterday in the kinesiology, the first thing I needed was SPM active, which is the specific pain mediators from fish oils. So it ramps up the omega-3s on the cell membranes really fast. So that was interesting.
HPA, I'm just trying to remember the study on HPA that the lady from that company came talking about it.
Yeah, right. So but basically they found that vegans have the lowest levels of omega-3s on their cell membranes. People who live in countries where they eat a lot of fish, who were really dedicated to eating good quality fish, they had the highest levels, and everyone else was in between. And our Australian Heart Association were bums about 15 years ago when the study came out about omegas and how beneficial it was for the heart. What it said on the Australian Heart Association before then was 2 bits of oily fish per week. Then the studies came out that said the more oily fish we eat, the better it is for heart health. So they changed their recommendation on the Australian Heart Association and said 1 piece of fish per week. They removed the word oily and they removed the 2 pieces, which was totally against what the meta study did. So anyway, but basically that was
nuts and seeds do the same job. And
if
so
you
because when
absorb
you're vegetarian, that's what you do. And
Yeah.
you just we just have a jar full of seeds and nuts and just have them like salt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the Celtic sea salt. Yeah.
And then you're always getting your oils.
Anyway, yeah. So anyway, about doctors, I don't think so, because I've been really paying attention to a lot of doctors in the last 5 years. I'm paying a lot of attention to politicians who are supporting doctors who are speaking out.
Well, a lot of
against
doctors have
stuff
evolved to a new frame that's really positive.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's happened over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And because of the conflict, that's why it happened.
Yeah.
Because they came out whereas they weren't active before.
Yeah.
And the whole metabolic health revolution is beautiful.
Naturopaths have been doing it forever.
No, I know, and it must be a strange thing to be validated by the medical. Even though they cut you off, they still validated it in another way.
Oh, it was like when leaky
so
gut
rude.
got validated. So going back about to 2017, 2018, something like that, there was this. He was an Italian American who spoke at the Metagenics conference, and can't remember, but basically they validated leaky gut for the first time ever scientifically, which is hilarious because, hello, it's naturopath's bread and butter. Well, let's fix your leaky gut first. First, heal the gut. Second, heal the liver. But anyway, so I don't think that's a stress.
But it was at the time.
What was?
Well, when they just doing that's rude. But, there's something that I can say that's interesting. It's like counselling. So, counsellors occupy this unique space that might be a bit similar to naturopaths. Because we're not psychologists, right? So we don't have to deal with diagnosis.
Yeah.
And
or prescriptions like a psychiatrist.
Or prescriptions, because a lot of people that I talk to is they'll have their kid diagnosed or themselves with something like ADHD, right? And what they leave with is hardly any information. They don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Right, and this is common. So they go to a pediatrician, or if they're a bit older, they'll go see a psychiatrist. And they come away with no information in a prescription, right?
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. It's just that what I notice is they have no help. Like ADHD, when you've got it, you have all these things happening, and the drugs might help regulate some of it, but herbs will do a similar job. But also there's a counselling part to it too. Do you know what I mean? And part of the counselling part is psychoeducation, where you say what it is.
Yes.
Right? But a lot of people get diagnosed with things and they don't say what it is. Whereas the professions that are true allied, even though they've knocked naturopaths off, it's still really serious allied health thing in this respect, is that we don't have to deal with those things.
Yes.
The people come already with their diagnosis, and you fill in the gaps. Oh, do you know what this is? Like with ADHD, the funniest thing in the protocol is the first step you've got a kid with ADHD, it's parenting training.
Yeah.
Because the parents have to change what they're doing, or they're fighting an uphill battle for the rest of their life. Because if you use normal behaviour tactics on this ADHD kid, it'll usually backfire. The boy will just be raging, and the girl will be sitting in a room not talking to anybody. Same at school. And so it's like there's good methodology and work just understanding it. Like we did a video the other day about rejection sensitivity dysphoria.
Yeah.
And all of the people I've talked to with ADHD go, oh, is that what that is? Oh, and immediately just knowing about it, you can start to manage it because anything that's triggered, right? Once you know the trigger, you're like, oh, that's what's triggering me. You can do something about it, right? Same with the polarization. Once you know what's triggering you, then you can work with that. Because Milton Erickson used this thing called utilization. Well, the trigger is movement. You know what I mean? You've got something you can work with there, make it conscious. Because the trigger happens in the background, and you don't know what's happening. You're just feeling a rage.
Yeah.
And then it might take you, like you said the other day, it might take you a minute to work it out, to go through, what is this? I've got this feeling, I'm not expecting it. It's like I feel fight, flight, I feel like running, I feel like hitting someone, I feel like raging. And then you eventually go, oh, it's a trigger. Oh, this is just a trigger. Oh, I'm okay with this. I can let it calm down. It's just because once you know this is a trigger, right? It's like with rejection sensitivity dysphoria with the ADHD people. It's like as soon as they get criticised by someone important, or they perceive, it doesn't even have to happen. They perceive it's happening, and they go into this thing, either disappearing and running away, or rah. Do you know? But once you know what it is, you're like, oh, this is happening, and the people around you, help spot it. Oh, are you okay? Instead of like, rah, it's like, oh, are you? Yeah, I'm having this. Give me a minute.
Yeah.
And then.
Or for my clients, I say, oh, you're having this. Take some Relaxan.
Right,
or take some Neurolift.
That's true. But the other thing is, was something that we were talking about in the commission the other day, was that when someone gets to a therapist or points it out, they've already done that 50,000 times in their life.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yeah, it takes time to regrow new neuronal pathways.
Right, so the trigger is a well ground down, it's happened 50,000 times.
Yeah.
Just like kids with ADHD, by the time they're 7 or 8, they've been told to stop 20,000 times more than normal kids.
Yeah.
So they just don't want to hear from an authority anymore. They don't believe them because they know that they're being treated differently to the other kids every day. Pay attention, do this, do that. I don't know,
Yeah.
And with parents, if you don't do the parenting training first, you go, well, you'll never win this one.
Yeah. So do any of my triggers feel like it's messing with my emotions and my self-esteem, self-worth?
Well, what do you think?
Well, that's the thing. Stuff happens within 1/500th of a second within the brain.
Mm.
So once your amygdala's activated.
And so mainly it gets activated with social situations where people have different opinion at the moment.
I'm pretty good at,
You're getting better at it. You've been working on that for a while.
Yeah. But, it's sort of like that whole, when you're vegetarian for 20 years, you're pretty primed at not, getting upset by, things. And then when you're...
I've been vegetarian for 40 years.
Yeah, and then non-drinker for 10 years, and that puts you into a whole other things. And, of course, being a natural therapist, so that, only 5% of people are going to agree with you on your stuff, because most people are big pharma people, so... I didn't choose anything easy,
Right.
From the start. And
isn't that interesting that it's you didn't choose anything easy?
Yeah. So it's sort of like.
So do you think there's some type of do you actually enjoy the challenge? Because you said earlier you enjoyed it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, one of the things, like part of my self-worth, self-esteem is that I know what I know.
Mm.
So, doctors can put me down, people can put me down. I don't give a toss because I know what I know.
But they put down your whole profession, not just you.
Yeah, but I sort of, but that had been a 10-year process.
Who was it that knocked naturopaths off the hello?
Oh, the cow who was in charge of, that woman.
That was AMA?
The one who is a she's married to her girlfriend, and they both got vaccine injured.
Oh, is that the person?
Yeah.
Oh,
So she was the head of the
I was
AMA.
talking to a doctor about it. They were saying that was the worst decision they had seen in 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's that woman whose name I can't remember.
I remember seeing her on TV.
But again, I saw a thing about that, and they basically used false science to prove there was no efficacy for natural therapies, and then basically kept pushing, that for 10 years. So, there's like that Friends of Science thing with all these horrible millionaires in. So they basically put all this money into things that are anti everything natural because they're obviously paid for by Big Pharma.
No, but it's funny that anyone who's ever had a really...
Dick Smith is one of them. Really? He's a friend of science, so I don't
know
any
from
of his stuff anymore.
That herbs and supplements do an amazing thing.
Yeah, no, they're
if you're not well from personal experience, and I know a lot of other people who they reach the limit of what they can do in other treatments, and then naturopathy will help their problem. And counselling similar to that too.
Yeah.
Like I had a story a teacher the other day. Kids at school crying, acting out. The parents are splitting up.
Yeah.
And then at the meeting, she suggested, "Oh, have you tried family counselling?" And then she got a letter back later and said, "Oh no." The mum said, "Oh, you've brought hope back."
Yeah,
right? And then they all went out to dinner. And the thing is that it's like opinions. When people are separating, everyone's saying leave, everyone's saying take the money, everyone's saying this and that. And one person's done the wrong thing, it's unforgivable.
Yeah.
But one person says, maybe you can resolve it, and suddenly it's improving and they've got hope again. Just one comment. And I was debriefing that teacher, and it was like really interesting that because they felt like they overstepped the mark a little bit because they gave a bit of their personal experience. They did counselling, got back together, and they were worried about sort of making too much personal disclosure.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, yeah, but look what you achieved. And then they got a letter back. We've all gone out to dinner again, and because often what all people need is one positive thing that you're doing really well. It's okay. You don't have to fight all the time with the other side.
Before I got married, so 35 years ago, one of my best friends said to me, "The good thing is you can divorce him if it's not good."
Right.
I was not even married at that stage.
Right.
So like, interesting.
There's not a very big voice for people staying together.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to get pulled. And just like the social thing and the medical thing we're talking about, it's very easy to get pulled one side and look at the other side as bad.
Yeah.
But we know lots of people, right? And you know that most people are good in their hearts. And so just like with the marriage thing, you've got good people and suddenly you've got all people on one side going, just leave, cut off the whole family, because they cut off the whole family. And then the kids lost half their network.
Yeah.
And just because,
Yeah, one of my friends, I was out to lunch with her one day, and I was just telling her a whole bunch of bullet point things that had happened because I go when I see her, as I do, and she said, "I have not heard anything that you're talking about," and we actually compared feeds.
Oh, that's
so her phone feed compared to my phone feed,
like the YouTube suggestions.
Yeah, like hers was all normal mainstream media. Government point, because of course now we know that, media outlets are being paid for by governments, like that's come out in the last month, in a huge way. That, they're pushing the government point of view, which is exactly how it's felt the last, well, certainly at least 5 years. But it's been pretty interesting.
Well, in the US it happened because they were funding that.
But we've been doing exactly the same.
Media organisations.
No, but they funded media organisations worldwide.
Yeah.
It was like 7,000 reporters or some crazy thing. Anyway.
What, that USAID thing?
Yeah, the USAID. Amazing, what they've been uncovering. And again, I'm sort of finding that enjoyable because I'm so sick of government corruption that I'm just finding that amusing and enjoyable because I'm glad someone's being found accountable. Someone, Like, why do we spend 27, billions of dollars to the World Economic Forum every year? Why do we, it's just crazy. They don't have our best interests at heart. They want depopulation and every man and his dog within a 15-minute radius of their home. You will own nothing and you will be happy. Like, nick off. No, we didn't sign up for that.
They do actually say that.
They do say that. It's on their freaking website.
Yeah.
And so does the UN. So does the World Health Organization. So anyway, I think that's a good first session, and maybe we'll do another round on Thursday.
Yeah, so basically we've got the pain. We've kind of done more of a listening session today, which is normal. Normally, dealing with a problem, the first thing you do is listen and reflect.
Yeah.
So you've got the physical pain, and we're looking at just doing some time from here after we finish. Go through and feel those things out and see how that stress.
Oh, you know why the stress? I'm not feeling the stress. I'm doing a fair bit of work on the AO Hub.
Right.
So I'm running several sessions a week, including things like, anyway, basically that's helping to regrow new neuronal brain pathways.
Yeah, because it's you're listening to the music, what's that frequency?
Yeah, the frequencies from the AO scanner as well as a podcast simultaneously.
Well, they found that so many things can work on subtle levels.
Mm.
It's like people doubt so many things.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, things like because they go, oh, what are good are essential oils? They don't have, because as they were saying, the medical, that they don't have any effect. Well, that's why they got struck off. But when you look at the actual research,
it's huge.
The essential oils, some of them, they increase both serotonin and dopamine are increased by different essential oils through the nasal passage.
You smell them.
And even though they go, oh, that's not real, there's no sign, but there is scientific evidence that they produce that.
And this is the lie they tell all the time. They say the same lie over and over and over again. They get
put into the hippie category, but if you've got ADHD, you want to bring up your serotonin and dopamine because otherwise. So
if you put rose and lavender on your wrists and just give it a smell a few times a day, that's going to make a huge difference.
Right, because they always give them serotonin uptake inhibitors, which is actually reprocessing the serotonin because there's not enough. So, but lavender oil and I think bergamot, they actually directly.
I've had a few people recently really damaged by SSRIs. Again.
Well, I'm not. I tend to keep a neutral position, but they definitely have horrible side effects for a lot of people.
Yeah, actually, one of my
difficulty coming off them.
One of my family's husband, he takes CBD for his anger and rage. He's got a brain injury, a traumatic brain injury, and it's one of the things. I mean, Stress Ends work beautifully, Calmex works beautifully, lots of things do, but the CBD, I think they've taken it away. But basically, the CBD's been keeping him really balanced, and then he ran out and he couldn't get any for 3 days, and he was
full on CBD or
just no CBD. I've got no idea, but so basically, she could tell that within hours of missing a dose, he just turned into this enraged bull. So even going off CBD, it needs to be really tapered slowly. So if people are on it and then they go off it, really interesting.
Well, same with things like. Because you've got the medical cannabis now.
Yeah.
Going off cannabis, just cutting it off is a bad idea.
Yeah.
Like all drugs, when you go off them, you've got to be careful.
Yeah.
And slowly go off them because it's because say that cannabis, it's giving you a big hit of dopamine.
Yeah.
They call it dope for a reason. It's dopamine.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and it's a lot. It's too much. You don't need that much every day, but it's dopamine. And the other thing is that the SSRIs suppress dopamine, which is the one that makes
they suppress
more.
Serotonin.
So if you've got a lack of dopamine, you get those MS diseases.
MS and Parkinson's, that sort of thing.
Because you don't
there's
have
a part
dopamine.
of the pituitary gland that's involved there. So the HPA again.
Back to the HPA.
Yeah, but then you can imagine, because they've added mRNA technology to the Parkinson's drugs the last couple of years as well. So some people are getting worse faster.
Yeah, and are you being positive about keeping your things that make your serotonin, your dopamine, your endorphins, and oxytocin?
Oxytocin.
Yeah, are you being aware of those
supplements? Do you mean?
No, but also activities, because some activities make them.
Well, again, I usually go for an hour walk every day.
Right.
I can't do that at the moment, so I'm only about. But I did on.
Sounds to me like you're going to start doing yoga again. But that'll be serotonin.
Well, I have to find a time that actually fits, so that I don't know how easy that will be.
But you're used to doing it with something in your ear. Yoga and music's really nice.
Yeah,
'Cause
right.
it's so regulated. Because when you're doing it with music, you're doing it with the beat. So
Yeah,
you can, when you do yoga with music, it's really easy to keep your breathing to the rhythm, and then you keep your asanas to the rhythm too. Doesn't even have to be spiritual music. That's what
yeah.
I do.
Well, at the moment, I
then,
can't even bend my legs, so I won't be starting it until
yeah,
this
no, not with it anyway.
regulates. Yeah,
But there's also a lot online. There's trauma-informed yoga online, and it's available to everybody, and you can just get it started up. But the problem is it might bring up trauma and make you feel really a bit scared. So often it's good to.
well, you know, I'm running my scans every day.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah, yeah.
that's, you know, I'm running my
No, but a lot
scans
of
and
people
playing
need
my
to do it
frequencies every day
with a
too.
professional
Right.
because body keeps score, and so what's being held there, the yoga will release, will often come out in a really emotional thing.
Right.
Some people end up emotional. They'll do one asana and start crying.
Yeah.
True story. And everyone goes, how does that work?
Yeah.
But it's a lot online, and you can get the information, the theory of it.
Yeah.
And because what yoga's doing, they're finding, because Carl Jung said that the West would develop their own yoga, and I'm watching it before my eyes.
Yeah, right.
Do you know what I mean? They're not bringing the whole religious part of it.
Yeah.
They're bringing the parts that actually heal people.
Okay.
And there's lots of them.
Cool.
Breathing does a whole bunch of things. The asanas, shaking your body, they all do different things that help you self-regulate.
Yeah.
At home.
Yeah.
For free.
Yeah. Cool. Excellent.
All right, well, we'll do an audit of that. We'll do an audit of the neuroreceptors before we do it again.
Yeah.
Make sure you've got all them in balance.
Yeah.
Having a look at yoga, and we'll keep these things in mind. We'll have a little chat about them later.
Yeah, I think in my scan yesterday, both serotonin and melatonin were a bit of a mess, but that makes sense because I've been in pain the last 2 nights while I've been sleeping.
Melatonin?
No, I've got it upstairs. Oh, no, I don't think I have been. So I've been doing.
I took a big dose of melatonin.
I've been doing
I
kava.
took a dose of melatonin last night. I forgot about it. But
Kava calms
I slept and didn't wake up.
Yeah, right.
No, it won't say how many milligrams I took. But
Oh, I've got some gummies coming.
Nice.
So no, I've been taking Carmex and collagen and Carvus before bed. So Kava calms the the heightened neurotransmitters in the brain. So
sometimes it's good to have a big hit of melatonin. That's what I do.
Yeah, I've got 20 milligrams in my cupboard.
And you just have that, and I had that one night's sleep, and I went, gee, that was good.
Yeah, I think anyway, maybe. I just don't know whether the pain will, hinder that at the moment. Haven't been in this much pain sleeping for a long time.
Yeah. That's right, it'll be gone in a week. We're onto it.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I hope some of you got something out of that. And high five.
Hey, high five.
Woo!
So nice. And we kept it light with not too much scary stuff.
Yeah. Don't want to go into why my A scores were 4 out of 10. But anywho, yeah. Excellent. See you all, everyone.
Bye.